Alright everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Cat the Beefy with the Game Vault. Happy Monday to you, and we're back with Polygon today. As we've got a call to violence from these guys, it looks like, against the current administration in the White House and people that support it. Isn't that strange? This is vile, disgusting, and pretty horrible. It's low-key, but it's there. Let's look into this together. Let's cue up the music. Alright, so these video games kill fascists. Cathartic video games to get your anger out in a healthy way. This is by Alice Giovanni and Maddie Myers. I think Maddie Myers was the one that wrote that very cope-oriented article about, what was it, the Veilguard the other day that we read. But let's get into this. It says, listen, I'm all about staying abreast of current events, but watching the fascist, white, cis, heteropatriarchy put boots on the necks of anyone they want to get olds fast. If anyone they want to gets old fast. Okay. Sometimes engaging in civil discourse in a marketplace of ideas falls short, and you just need to unleash some unbridled rage on some fools. If you feel like dismantling the systems of oppression with wanton destruction, these games provide that sweet feeling you get from bringing the royal ruling class down a peg. While the evergreen violence of the Wolfenstein franchise is a natural starting point, we know that fascism doesn't always wear a uniform tailor suit by Hugo Boss. Regardless of the motivations of the overarching antagonists, our recommended titles all feature enemies that are, they slash out just following orders, responsible for upholding corrupt systems or institutions. So you don't have to feel bad about sending any of these suckers to an early grave. Go ahead, give your empathy the day off, and become the Blasco that you're wicks to see in the world. This is ironic coming from the people that supported forced vaccinations, that wished harm upon you if you wouldn't wear a mask in public, that berated you and wished death on you and your family if you wouldn't get vaccinated, and didn't follow their, what they believe in, that call you all these horrible names if you don't bow to their will and what they think, their own little state of mind, that reality they live in, that false reality. This is very, very ironic. The very people that practice these fascist ideologies, the ones that want to take your guns away and silence your voices, and now they're so mad, they're so butthurt that America has rejected this ideology, and not only they rejected it on every level. All these companies that they thought were behind them, they were just cashing in on them, man. They rejected this ideology all around the board. Everybody has turned their nose up to it and said, no, man, we're sick of this crap. You know what? We're sick of bowing down to you small percentage of the population, you weird, terminally online freaks of nature, you disgusting little petty human beings. We're tired of you, and we're not listening to you anymore. And that's how we feel about you. How would you like a game made and where we go out and we kill troons, right? Or, go in and smash in the heads of BLM or Antifa, stuff like that. How would you feel about that? Promoting that kind of game. Personally, I wouldn't promote a game like that. That's bullshit. You don't take these real world events. We have enough violence. We have enough hatred in the real world. Video games should be an escape from that kind of stuff. There's no reason to bring the real world into video games or to bring video games into the real world. They're two separate things. It's an escape. It's entertainment. It's fun. You people are sick. You need help. We should reopen the mental institutions and get you all off the street, because you don't belong on the streets. You definitely don't belong on the internet spreading your diseased, cancerous ideas to other people, because you just go out there and you spread these ideas to other weak-minded people. You create these disgusting, twisted communities. I mean, it's freaking pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Anyway, where you see a world run by Nazis, BJ Blazkowicz sees a target-rich environment. The entirety of the Wolfenstein franchise, but specifically Machine Games' Wolfenstein: The New Order and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, are all about streamlining a fascist to dog food pipeline. And thanks to current events, it's never been easier to identify with a motley crew of weirdos hell-bent on toppling a fascist regime. While these games are usually about new and creative ways to send goose-stepping morons to an early grave, both the New Order and New Colossus still serve up plenty of poignant story beats to remind you of what you're fighting for. What are you fighting for, Tell us, what are you fighting for? What has been taken away from you? The fact that you can't dice and slice kids up anymore? The fact that you can't destroy their future and let them grow up to have a normal life and let them wait until their brain is fully developed before they make a decision about their future and about what they're going to develop into as a human being? You can't suppress their hormones? Is that what you're fighting for? You can't chop off their parts or mutilate their genitals before they're fully developed in their brain? I mean, for God's sake, man, you can't give a kid a tattoo. You don't allow them to make that kind of a choice. What makes you think you can let a child decide what sex he is? And don't give me that sex and gender are two different things argument. That's bullshit made up by some fucking left-wing academic idiots that, don't even get me started on these Marxist fools, all right? You guys are just full of shit, and you know it. And everybody's waking up to that fact, and everybody's sick of it. Normal people are now waking up to that fact. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the ride, because the fucking ride is over, guys. Anyway, Fallout New Vegas begins with a protagonist betrayed, bound, and shot in the head. Being pulled out of a shallow grave is just the start of their revenge quest. Tracking down the gunman is just the start. Playing a pacifist is possible, but tough, especially when confronted with the brutal expansionism of Caesar's Legion or the machinations of Mr. House in the Vegas Strip. Your first introduction to Caesar's Legion is probably the lottery, a mass slaughter on an unassuming town with just one deeply traumatized survivor. You can confront the perpetrators in an optional, tough boss fight, and I always do. Every time I play New Vegas, I raise the Legion from the Mojave, enjoying every time a head pops off or a guy gets turned into giblets. New Vegas confronts you with some of the worst indignities man can inflict on man, but then the game gives you a shotgun. The narrative built around each faction and the final choice makes playing as the courier so satisfying, especially when you're pulling a big risk by assassinating Caesar in his camp, or with one pivotal choice with Mr. House literally eating the rich. You people are sick. The fight to power theming applies just as much to the original version of Final Fantasy VII, but not everyone has the patience for the 90s era RPGs. If you do, the Nintendo Switch port of the 97 classic is pretty decent. There's a reason why so many people quote the character Barrett from this video game when he says, "The planet's dying, Cloud." It's not just a throwaway line, it's the whole point of the game, and it becomes not just Barrett's motivation, but everyone else's too, even the skeptical and emotionally distant Cloud. This is the game where the eco-terrorists are the heroes, and they must fight against an evil, authoritarian corporation that's sucking the planet dry to satisfy the myopic purposes of the immoral higher-ups. It's cathartic as hell, and it still holds up after all these years, which is why Remake and a sequel Rebirth have been so popular in the modern day. So I guess you also support the government and all these rich celebrities dictating to the common man how much fuel they can use and that they should take public transportation and what temperature they should put their air conditioner on while they fly around on public jets and ignore all of these things and just, climate change is real. I won't deny that. And I won't deny the fact that humanity does have an impact on it. Definitely not the impact that these quote-unquote scientists tell us. Okay? They're paid to tell us these things. They're paid by governments so governments can control us. Okay, that's why they do it. So we can be taxed into oblivion so that we can keep the energy sector running in the way that it's most profitable for these energy companies to continue to make profits and to pay off our governments in the way they want to work together. If you think there's anything other than a corrupt relationship between governments and corporations regarding all this, and that these eco-terrorists, as you want to call them, are doing any good for humanity, you're wrong. Absolutely wrong. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Quite possibly the most satisfying action game in the previous decade. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance gives players control of the cyborg Raiden in a hardcore action game that's all about slicing his enemies to bits. It certainly helps that people you puree with Raiden's superpowered katana are members of a private military corporation bent on destabilizing the world to fuel the military-industrial complex in the name of endless war and profiteering. Remember that, endless war and profiteering. But the most satisfying death and destruction you'll deal in Revengeance is against a corrupt government official, Senator Armstrong. In the game's ultimate battle, a grueling 30-minute showdown between Raiden, the giant Metal Gear Excelsius machine, and the nano machine-powered Armstrong, you're subjected to his Make America Great Again doublespeak, in which he pledges to fuel the war of all wars so he can end wars of business. If you ever wanted to slay a greedy, toxic politician with confused libertarian dipshit ideals and do it as cybernetically enhanced child soldier who rightly points out that millions will suffer under Armstrong's plan, play Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. It's a cathartic way that calling your local elected officials really is. Well, if you want to look at the that military-industrial complex and making money off of it, let's look at how much money was sent to Ukraine under Joe Biden, man. The darling of the left, that president that was voted for by, and I quote, more people than anyone else in the history of any other president voted for him. Yeah, we all know that was a sham. You'll never convince me otherwise. And I can't wait till that's exposed, because you know it's going to be. You absolutely know that's going to be dug up during this term, and people are going to get exposed, and people are going to get in a lot of trouble for this one. But anyway, all that money thrown over there, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. How much was kicked back to the Biden family? 10% for the big guy. Remember, we all know that money sent overseas to Israel as well. We constantly send money overseas. The military-industrial complex fuels our politicians. That's why it's always so big. That's why we're involved in so many wars. We don't care if we win or lose anymore. Okay? And you want to talk about, I don't care how you want to point the fingers at it. Everybody is involved in it, right? Trump wanted to end all wars. He did during his presidency. He put a stop to America's involvement in war, and I have a feeling we're going to be not involved in any more wars. He wants to pull out of NATO because NATO always has its hands dirty, always involved in conflict everywhere. We need to stop that. We need to start practicing a little bit more of an isolationist policy here in the United States, kind of bring our soldiers home, stop putting our kids in a meat grinder, sending them overseas to die for causes that we have nothing involved with, to protect oil or protect whatever else it is out there. We need to bring them home, protect our borders, protect our country, become a place that builds again, manufactures, exports, makes money, not just spends it. We're like a guy with credit cards, paying off everything every month with other credit cards, just accruing more and more interest. And eventually we're going to go bankrupt and we're going to die. We're going to die poor. It's crazy. Dying Light 2, Stay Human. This is a game about fighting zombies and doing cool parkour stunts as opposing to facing off against fascists, but I take great personal pride in refusing to join up with the Peacekeepers, the cop-like faction in the game. You have only two choices. Peacekeepers are survivors, and they both have advantages and disadvantages. The story of this game isn't really deep enough to bother providing you with much motivation either way, so most players will be looking at the mechanical advantages to each side. It's true that if you join the Peacekeepers, you do get a crossbow, but is that really worth selling your soul? I'd say not. So Myers would rather be a commie. What a scumbag. Hard Space Shipbreaker. There are a few precious games where the endgame boss is your actual boss. Hard Space Shipbreaker not only nails the working Joe in space vibe, but accurately depicts the struggles associated with forming a union. As an indentured employee of the dystopian Lynx Corporation, your body is literally company property. You spend endless shifts breaking down spaceships for parts, as you and your fellow employees realize that collective action is the only way to free yourselves from the shackles of debt. Methodically stripping ships for parts can be fulfilling, but nothing satisfies quite like telling your boss where to stick their performance review. Okay. Typical of this generation, they don't like to work. Anyway, and then Metaphori Fantasio. This lengthy RPG isn't much about fighting. The power is realizing that everything's a lot more complicated than you thought it was. So it's not exactly that cathartic. Nazi punching experience that, say, Wolfenstein might provide, and yet this game is very much about fighting against bigots, of which there are many in this fantasy world. You have to do your fighting in a literal combat sense, of course, but you also get opportunities to fight with words as well as convince people they're wrong, which, let's all admit, is also an enjoyable fantasy. I have a feeling, Myers, you never convince anybody you're wrong, because I think you just call people bigots that disagree with you, Miss Myers. You freaking idiot. These people are idiots. Well done, Polygon. I got to tell you, man, this is a not so low-key call to violence against the current administration and people that support it. Pretty disgusting. You guys have, you guys have really, really gotten to a new low here, man. Congratulations. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below on this. Yeah, I'm over these guys. Anyway, we'll catch you guys next time. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell for notification. Polygon's pathetic. Can't wait to see these guys close their doors. I have a feeling that's coming up. We'll see you next time. Until then, peace.